All right, let me read one more before, and then we will finally get to this Tucker shit. I want to apologize to the person that wrote this, because I think that maybe there's might be an attack that's being perceived here that's not real. But I'll just put this out. I'd like to counter your assumption that we're all acting in a meaningless void on the internet. We think that you're talking about your own disease. We use it to have public conversations with centrist to extreme conservative neighbors with actual results. We also use it to feed our neighbors, using it as a hub for an underground local economy, and so on.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, but it's a question of the totality. What is it more than it is not? Because, of course, the internet has a lot of uses that are valuable and that need to be encouraged. But what's the balance? It's things are rarely 50-50. They're usually 51-49 minimum.
Right.
And I would say that it's your job is not to pick which is an easier argument and then stick with that, because nothing is one thing. Most things are variated, and you can pick the good thing and decide that means that the internet is good. Or you can step back for a second and say that even though I use it for X, Y, and Z for useful, its totalizing influence is negative.
Yeah, and again, I just want to kind of keep pushing this point that when we talk in these terms, this is another reason. Yes, this is my fucking every show issue bashing of like the sort of like moralism culture across the board, from whether the fact that we need to actually allow people to change and grow and actually evolve, and that we cannot, try to run around controlling and morally perfecting people as like the big macro point. But even like in this small way, like we're not talking on personal terms here at all.
Yeah.
Like this is I know that there are probably tens of millions of people across the globe using digital technologies in positive ways, east, west, north, south, no question. I'd even be as presumptuous to say that, like, yes, I think to the extent the type of work we do, if it feeds people just kind of sitting in an online cul-de-sac, that's super unhelpful. But on the other hand, you absolutely do encounter people who say like, hey, that was funny, helped me get through my day, or this inspired me to organize my campus for Bernie, or now I understand something about another country and I'm less of an asshole. Like, these are fucking great things. And it's not about it. I actually think like it really is just in general the anti-politics of personal responsibility. I'm saying that once you really get these base functions we're talking about, the part that people don't like is it is kind of difficult, because it's like, not that much we can do really makes a difference. Yeah. So all of the kind of performativity and whatever, basically whatever. But then on the other hand, like, you trying and figuring it out and your neighbor, like that should only evoke like solidarity and compassion. So it's not about a judgment of anyone's use. It's a context we're all using in.
Right. And I would say one of the biggest problems, and I don't know how you could argue that this is not a phenomenon, is that it's essentially impossible to publicly move towards a greater understanding or away from a hardened position, because you now have a record of saying X, Y, and Z. And as soon as you deviate from it, you will have people saying, you said this, and now you're saying this. And it becomes, as you said, a judgment of you as a person. It becomes like you're not reasoning something out. You're not working towards something. You're flip-flopping, like you're John Kerry or something, because everyone now has. And what that ends up doing is you don't want to look like you don't have convictions. So that means that even if you lose, even if you gain a greater nuance, you can't really express it in a way that could be productive, because it will undermine your credibility, because you have a record of things, of public statements that can be talked, that can be addressed.
And I want to just say, I think across the board, from people's former positions to actual mistakes to evolving worldviews, whatever, we need to really, like, we know there needs to be jubilees across the board. We need to get rid of debts in the so-called developing world that are still the products of ongoing economic colonialism. We need to get rid of people's medical debts. We need to get rid of people's student debts. We need to get rid of people's online debts. And there even needs to be a getting rid of psychic debts, frankly. Like, not because like, oh, you know, whatever, just repeat yourself. It has to be coupled with genuine change and growth. But you cannot incentivize genuine change and growth if you don't have this broader set of resetting. And I actually think overall, just even the trajectory of our politics, if you have any type of radical humane politics, that's like an across the board demand right now. We need a jubilee. We need a reset. It needs to be cleaned, and it needs the capacity to be cleaned as an ongoing practice.
And what that demands of people is at that level of the internet is just a generosity, as giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Giving people the benefit that they're operating in good faith. And that's another element that the internet basically militates against, because we don't know anybody. Everyone is just a name on a screen. We have no way of trusting them. So we end up relying almost entirely on shibboleths of phraseology to determine friend from foe. And then that hardens into the only thing we believe, because it's the only way to navigate the territory. And that means that there's this terror at like dropping that, because then you've dropped your guard. But you only feel like you need to be on guard because you assume that everyone is out to get you, is lying about what they really want, is actually on some sort of long con and grip, which of course is made harder by the fact that some people are. But
right.
If there was, as you said, a greater degree of compassion towards other people and a benefit of the doubt extended, I think a lot of people would be surprised at how much good faith really is there.
And also, if you take these, I mean, that's the other thing too, is like, if we want to have the end point of these discourses that, you know, we're overdetermined by capitalism, there's these social and economic forces that generate actions that intrude on our beings, conflict with our moral impulses, that set these contexts. Yeah, that's actually true. And that again means you have to pivot. Like, it's not like, okay, all of these just absolutely gargantuan economic and social forces are working. So what's your personal Olympic, like, jumping out of them in individual heroic action? It's, oh shit, that's all true. And of course, look, I keep talking about Sloterdijk. I think the left actually needs to make some comfort with the idea of individual practice, spirituality, search for excellence, and so on. That's great. But at the same time, if we took those realities seriously, you've got to push back from this, like, you know, it's like, yes, should everybody wear their masks? Definitely. But the problem is, and the reason, you know, no one talks about, the CDC was saying a couple of months ago, don't worry about wearing a mask, because they didn't have any fucking masks.
Yeah.
And then the discourse turns into, you're an asshole, you don't wear a mask. Well, you know, sure, but there's an ecosystem behind it. And the problem is the lack of production of the masks. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that was what was so depressing to me, was just seeing how, especially as the casualties mounted and as the slow dawning realization that we're just going to kind of shrug our shoulders and say, yeah, we're going to forfeit a fundamental element of any kind of society in terms of protecting people. We're going to further the sense of you are on your own. But I just saw it already. It was all primed. Everyone is going to blame each other for it.
Right. That's the problem.
Liberals are going to blame people for wanting to go out, and it's like everyone is subconsciously responding to their knowledge that nothing's coming to save us, and yet we will still end up blaming each other for discrete individual choices to do this. And now my hope, honestly, is that because this is the whole thing burst in such a violent and unexpected manner, that all of this accumulated horror at the degree to which our social our social infrastructure is non-existent, can now be potentially be put to productive use instead of towards just this sterile finger pointing.
Yes. I really, really resonate. It's perfect.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.